All right, welcome. We see some people joining the room here. We're just going to give it a minute, let everyone get settled, get their tech in place. Excellent. I always kind of like to start off with a roll call or something to see where we're joining from today across the US or the world. Go ahead and put in the chat. Where are you calling in from? I'm up in Wisconsin, up in Door County, if anyone knows that. Minnesota, yeah, Midwest friend there, Jordan, hi. Connecticut, Fort Wayne, Kansas, look at all this. Puerto Vallarta, wish I was there, that sounds great. New Jersey, Texas, Arizona, welcome everyone, very exciting. While we wait, let's see where our panelists are from. Ryan, where are you calling in from?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, Arizona. How about you, Lori?
I'm in Columbia, Maryland.
And Kristen?
Chicago, Illinois.
So we're all over the map.
We are.
That's awesome. Got Canada up here too, Virginia. Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. A couple people still join the call, but I really want to make the most out of this hour. So this is our, expert panel really focused on the home and commercial services industry to talk about hiring, to answer some burning questions. And I'm really excited to have our panelists here today. If y'all don't know me, my name is Natalie Morgan. I'm the Senior Director of People at Career Plug. So one part of my job is I get to do education with our partners and clients, as well as I do a lot of applying our own hiring best practices for our own team and working with hiring managers. And part of our goal at Career Plug is, not only to, set you up for success using a hiring software and hiring the right people for your team, but to really create some community around best practices for hiring and developing the right people. So that's why we're excited to be able to host this event today. So y'all know what our agenda looks like. It's pretty simple. I'm going to introduce our panelists and we're going to have a discussion. We have some questions that I'm going to ask that I think will give you all a lot of really actionable takeaways, and then really open it up for some Q&A. So we saw some of your questions come in ahead of time. We'll cover some of those, but if you have other questions you want to ask, feel free to use the Q&A in Zoom. It should be at the bottom of your screen. I'll be monitoring that. We should have plenty of time to answer your questions live at the end. We are recording this session. We'll send out the recording and other resources to everyone who registered today, so you can look forward to that as well. So enough of me. Let's find out who our panelists are. So we have Ryan, Lori, and Kristen with us. I'm going to just go in order. Ryan, would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Ryan England. I'm the CEO and founder of Core Matters. And we work with small businesses, a lot in the franchise space, actually, to help them hire better people faster, with an emphasis on the frontline employees, the technician, the laborer, the customer service rep.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Ryan. And Lori.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lori D'Souza. I'm Director of Talent Acquisition at Authority Brands. Authority Brands is a franchisor, and we own 12 brands. And my role at Authority Brands is to help our franchise offices in the areas of recruiting and retention.
Thanks, Lori. And Kristen.
Good afternoon. My name is Kristen Shalmetzi. I am the president and owner of Molly Maid in Bloomingdale and Mount Prospect, Illinois. I have 4 territories. I've been in business for starting my 16th year. And I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Pillars of Franchising, which is a live broadcast video podcast that we do every Thursday, where we help existing franchisees in a number of different ways, and we also help people find brands that they're looking for rather, if they want to buy a franchise.
Excellent. Thank you all. So really a great expert panel here. So I'm very excited to hear y'all's insights. So let's just dive right into, I think one of the burning questions on everyone's mind has to do with candidate ghosting. So how frequently are you seeing candidates ghosting during the hiring process? And have you tried any strategies that have cut down on those no-shows? And I'm going to start with you, Ryan. What insight do you have here?
Yeah, so the frequency varies. The studies will tell you it's about 30%. I'm going to call bogus on those studies. It's probably closer to 75 or 80%, or at least it feels that way for most people. So it's happening a lot. And, when it comes to the strategies, I want to share a little bit of background for the people on right now and those watching the recording. You have to remember that in today's market, it's a job seekers market. Like unemployment is super low. The number of jobs are exceeding, open jobs are exceeding the number of people who are looking for jobs. So you have to remember they have options. And when they have options, that means that you as the owner have to be very quick to respond. I've seen some stats that have come out of Career Plug on the average time to first contact, and the numbers are measured in days. And some of those days get close to a week. If you think about it, by the time you've responded, even if you're 2-3 days after they've applied, they probably have already started a job somewhere else. There are literally companies, and I'm not kidding you, there are companies out there that have AI chatbots running on their website right now that will make offers based on the way they respond in the chat box. People don't even need to apply for jobs anymore. You've got some big box retailers that are just hiring everybody that applies and weeding them out during onboarding. That's your competition. So when people no-show you, it's most likely because they didn't really have a reason to show up because they've already got another job. The other thing we see that happens a lot too is when you do reach out to them, because I get it, we're all busy business owners. You reach out to them and it's a quick email. Hey, I'd love to talk. Can you call me? Or what's a good time for you? And what we really need to do is we need to put a full court press on that job seeker, that person that applied. Phone call, email, text, use the tools inside of Career Plug to help you with this. But when you get them on the phone, don't ask them all the questions you asked on the application. Create a connection with them. They are ghosting you because they've got no skin in the game. But if they liked you, if they felt there was a connection, if they felt you were going to invest in them, help them achieve their career goals or their personal goals, just in a quick 5-minute phone conversation, they're going to be much more likely to show up.
Thanks for that, Ryan. Yeah, gotta give them a reason to show up, right? Stay out of the competition there.
Yep.
Kristen or Lori, do you have any insight on that?
Well, I would say I'm really glad that Ryan added the part about the full court press, because I think that's really important. Everybody today, whether it's your employees or your clients, everybody communicates differently. And whether that's a generational thing, that part doesn't even matter. We just know that if you don't hit them on all pieces of technology that you can reach them, there's a good chance that you'll miss. So, and timely for sure is certainly important. So I think all of Ryan's points were really, really great.
I agree. And one thing I want to add is something that we're always pushing out to our franchise owners is never stop recruiting. It's got to be constant. It's got to be right up there with your day-to-day running your business. It should be, I always say it should be more important then, because that's my world, but it should be as important as every other piece of your business because of the current state of ghosting and all the other great points that Ryan pointed out.
Yeah, that's something we say at Career Plug too. I think about that in our own hiring, right? Different candidates and jobs we're hiring for as a software company, but we're running into the same problems. I think it's a cross-industry thing as far as ghosting and, how do you just always keep it top of mind so you don't lose out on the best candidates. And I did get a question and I want to answer quickly, specifically if you're a, Career Plug user. Someone asked, how do I get notified about applicants applying right away? So I just wanted to point out for our users, there's a couple tools you can do. One, you can have your settings. You get notified right away for every new applicant that comes in. So you don't have to wait for that, daily summary that might come the next day. So if you're not you're not, in the app and checking, you can get an email for each new applicant. We also have a tool that I use a lot called Fast Track, where you can set, a certain question or criteria, and that's a fast track applicant, and you'll get notified for them right away. You can even set it up so they'll, automatically get sent to the next step in your hiring process. So like taking an assessment or something. So it just keeps that communication moving a little faster. So if you're interested in those, there's articles in the Help Center. We can connect afterwards, and I can show you how to do that in the app. So let's go to our next, kind of big question here. And I wanted to, start with some data here. So this chart at the bottom of the slide is from our recruiting metrics report. This is something CareerPlug does annually. We, look at, thousands of companies, millions of applications, and try to answer some questions about hiring. And one of the big ones is, where are applicants actually coming from and where are hires actually coming from? And this is specifically for the home and commercial services industry. So you can see it's showing the percentage of applicants. For example, job boards, that's when you think about Indeed, ZipRecruiter, right? Those major players, 78% of applicants are coming from job boards, make up almost half of your hires, 48%. But that percentage of applicants hired, that conversion rate is about 1%. So 1% of all people applying from job boards are actually hired. And I give that to you as a comparison. If you look over at custom sources and referrals, so 1% or less of applicants. So the volume isn't there as much, but for percentage of hires, 18% of your hires are coming from custom sources. And you look at that conversion rate, 19% and 17%. So that quality of applicant tends to be a lot higher from custom sources or referrals. So the question up on the slide here, is, where do you look to find applicants other than major job boards like Indeed and ZipRecruiter? And Lori, let's start with you.
Sure. I definitely want to start with your applicant tracking system. We have found success utilizing CareerPlug as our ATS. And as an organization, we gave access to all of our franchise owners their own CareerPlug account. And in addition to that, we put in job templates. You always, of course, your job posting is key. That's, visibility into your organization. So our job templates are keyword driven, and we get some good results for sure through our app, through CareerPlug. But in addition to that, what's nice is all of our jobs land on the branded careers page that CareerPlug created for us. So in conjunction with marketing, we've actually been working together and created a recruitment marketing campaign. So our marketing team utilized some ad funds to create recruitment marketing collateral, and we're driving that in local markets across the country. And then with that, they're redirected to the careers website, which then of course goes into CareerPlug. So all that has been successful. But in addition to that, you look at having a good, robust applicant tracking system like CareerPlug, your recruitment marketing, if feasible. We've also put some money behind military recruiting to just target that audience as well. So we as a franchisor, kind of took the next level to help our franchise offices who are truly struggling in the home and commercial services with trying to find candidates. We also created a list of local recruiting ideas to share with our franchises, because we look at this as, of course, it's a partnership. You can't just post your job in an ATS and go out to the job boards and hope you get your applicants, right? Like maybe that happened 20 years ago, but today, it's going back to that grassroots marketing as well, and recruiting. So some of the things where we also look as your local unemployment office, speaking with any veteran representatives to introduce your business, state workforce agencies. We push the now hiring signs on everything, any type of local events in the trades in your area. So, could be landscaping, for example, or other home maintenance, just establishing those relationships, getting involved in any type of home shows, any type of community events. Social media is just a whole nother area where we're diving into for the recruitment aspect. So some of what that looks like is your Facebook local community page. I don't know if anybody are familiar, but in my area, it's called nextdoor.com, which is your local community. So we really combined the ATS, the recruitment marketing, in addition to a lot of local ways to help drive that candidate flow, asking current employees for referrals. So there's a lot of things that you can do to drive those applicants. And when you combined all of them, it's been successful for us.
Thanks for that, Lori. Kristen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it depends on the age or stage of your business. Obviously, if you're just opening, you're going to have a little bit of a different tactic in how you go about hiring, and you're tending to look for, maybe larger amounts of people all at one time. And so as we opened our business, we had very different approaches. And now that we are a mature business, obviously those have changed. So I think, for me, the best, and I apologize if you hear pounding, they're redoing a deck in my house and it's really loud. If you have an existing business and you're looking to add to your team, we've had great luck with our employees going out and helping find employees and having referral fees. Now, the great thing is most of our employees are extremely happy where they are, thank goodness. And they'll say, you know what, Kristen, it doesn't matter that you're offering me a bonus, because the people that I know, I won't want them to work with me. And so your employees know, especially if they're going to have to work with a person, I'm not looking for warm bodies. I need somebody with a strong sense of integrity. I need somebody who's authentic, somebody who wants to work hard. And so I appreciate being able to count on my employees to bring a lot of new applicants in. We also happen to have a fleet. So every one of my Molly Maid cars has a now hiring sticker on the rear passenger windows. And so that helps. We also are working on doing some videos, and some of you probably have already thought about this. I know it's out there in the air right now, doing videos of a day in the life, right? Working at Molly Maid, what does it look like? Whether it's for TikTok or any of those other social media things. In the days when we first started, it was a lot of guerrilla marketing. I mean, we were taking flyers to the grocery store. We were putting flyers at the laundromats. I mean, it was wherever you could possibly get them. The girls were taking flyers to church, right? And meeting with some of those people. So it really is like, nothing is off the table. I still hand out my cards when I go to fast food restaurants and have extremely good service. And so I think that's really important. And I'm always sure that when I see the same people in the drive-through, I build a rapport with them, because one day they're going to get tired of working in a drive-through. And I want them to remember who I am and that I'm consistently a nice person to them every single time I go through, in hopes that when they're looking, they might turn to me and say, hey, you know what? Are you still hiring for that job you gave me a card about 3 months ago, or whatever the case may be?
I love that. I'm so glad you shared that story. It kind of goes back to what Lori said about always be recruiting, right?
Always.
Looking out in your community for people who do provide great service. I've heard stories from State Farm agents before who've hired, their wait staff because they had a great service at dinner. So I think that's a really good mindset to have. Ryan?
Yeah, so 2 tips. I mean, there's so many things. I think, listening to Lori, she gave some really big ideas like recruitment marketing. I'm like, we could have a whole series of webinars just on recruitment marketing. 2 tips I've seen that work really well. Number 1, we all focus on customer testimonials. Like, that's just kind of a normal thing in business. Get some employee testimonials. So if you're not on Glassdoor, get on Glassdoor. For those of you who don't know, it's a review website where employees or past employees can talk about what it's like to work there. Get employee testimonials. The other employee testimony that's really important is everybody's a videographer now, right? We're all professional videographers. We got them on our phones. Ask your employees to record a 60-second selfie video and send it to you of what it's like to work there. So it's not a day in the life as much as it is this is the kind of team that we're on. This is what we do. This is how we have fun. This is how leadership engages us. create those employee testimonial videos, share them everywhere. So that's one thing. The other thing I think, especially for people that have been using Career Plug for a while, whether you use the pipeline or you just deactivate everybody, there is a huge amount of people in your Career Plug that have applied over the years. Go back and nurture them. We call it the bench. We call it working the bench. But we have some clients that have 4,000 or 5,000 people in their ATS, and it's just like, go out to them. It's free. Shoot them all an email, send them a text message, pick the ones that you liked and for whatever reason didn't work out. Go back to that list of people that have already applied to work with you in the past.
Great advice. Yeah, definitely agree. All right, let's kind of jump off that, because we started talking about referrals a little bit, Kristen, that your employees are some of your best recruiters out there. So like, what does that look like when you promote jobs to your current team? Like, can you drill into the specifics of how you handle employee referrals?
Sure. So, and there several companies are doing it right now, right? Everybody's offering new hire bonuses, but we just structure ours a little bit differently. So if my team brings in a new person and that person works out and they stay for, initially we started for 90 days, then the person who we would refer to as the recruiter would get $500. And the person who survived the 90 days, and we know at that point at 90 days, they're either going to make it or they're not. We usually know at 30, but 90 usually means they're there to stay. If somebody stays with you 90 days, they're good. And so then they get a $250 bonus as well. So it's kind of like a thanks for making it through kind of your trial period of 90 days. And thanks to the person who brought you in. We've played with the idea of shortening that time frame. Like, okay, what if they stay 30 days? Is that better? It doesn't seem to motivate my team one way or another, whether they get it in 30 or 90. They just don't want to bring in a slouch to work. They want to work with people who are going to actually work. And that's been very helpful. I'll tell you, I think the number one thing that we tend to do is underestimate the value of team and how your employees can really be such a great asset at assessing talent. And, listen, most of us don't have high tech jobs. These are general labor type jobs. My girls, they're out there, they're busting their backs, cleaning bathtubs and toilets and sinks, right? So you don't have to have a big amount of skill set, but you do have to have some pride, and you have to be able to work hard, and you need to have passion for what you do, and most importantly, care for the customers that we're helping. And so those are traits that some come very easily to some people and some don't. So for me, giving that little bit of money to the person who works that referral, I'll call it, and oddly enough, it often tends to be sister-in-laws or cousins, or we get a lot of families, which makes it very interesting as well. It tends to work. So I just don't have, through the pandemic, I let one person go because it just wasn't working anymore. And I lost two people because their children were pulled out of school and they didn't have any options in terms of daycare. But that's all I lost during the entire pandemic. So, and there are a lot of companies that lost a lot more than that. So I've got everybody back to work, and now we've added another 6 people, and we continue to hire daily.
That's awesome. I think that's a great point that I'll repeat, is like trusting your team members. When you have good people, they also want to bring on good people and work alongside them. Lori or Ryan, do you have any thoughts about having a referral program? What could that look like?
Yeah, I would have to say, agree with what Kristen mentioned. That's very similar to what some of our franchise do as well. It varies, of course, based on per office, but at the end of the day, your employees truly are your biggest and best recruiters.
Definitely.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions on employer referral programs. So the number one issue that I hear is that when they do get people, they usually get good people. And I think your data supports that. Kristen, what you said supports that. Lori, what you said supports that. Like, that's where the good people come from. But how do we increase the volume?
Right.
And I think there's two things to keep in mind here with referral programs. Number one, nobody wants to switch jobs, right? Looking for work is one of life's most stressful events.
Mhm.
So if I'm going to call my buddy and say, hey, I know your wife's still pissed at me for the last harebrained idea I had, but can you tell her that you're going to quit your job and come work over here because I'm going to get a few $100s from my boss? Like, it just doesn't work. Like, you have to really think about what you're asking your employees to do. Like, you're asking them to go home, talk to their friends and say, hey, I know she's still mad at me, but quit your job and come work with me. And that's why I think people struggle so much to do a volume in referrals. So when it comes to employee referral programs, what I would encourage you to think about is, what can you offer people as an incentive that is aligned more with your values and why they want to be on your team?
Yeah.
People don't leave jobs for money. People leave jobs because they don't like the Yahoo they're working for.
That's so true.
So if we know it's not about money, I would encourage you to get creative on how you can incentivize. One of the ones that we see work really well is paid time off, especially entry-level positions. They often don't get paid time off at all, or it takes a long time to get it. Give them a week of PTO. If you're paying them $20 an hour, which is a lot for entry level, I mean, yeah, you're talking $800 in paid time off, but you probably get a referral every week for that, you know? And so that's one thing about employer referral programs. Really think about that. The other thing I encourage you to think about, I'm not a big fan of delaying payment. Kristen, you had said it really didn't matter.
Mhm.
I believe that it's the responsibility of the employer to make a good hiring decision
Mhm.
and to engage that employee to keep them long-term. And I don't like the idea of putting it on the employee to say, hey, you're going to get paid in 90 days if that referral is still here.
Mhm.
That's not their job. I mean, unless they're their manager, and then that's a whole different issue,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Yeah.
not their job to keep the person. So I say
Mhm.
pay them right away. Next paycheck, you get your referral bonus. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how
It's
you pay a
actually good
recruiter.
point. Yeah.
So
Not only do I like that idea, but I actually really like the PTO versus a hiring bonus too. And I'm going to try that, and I will let you know how that works out, because that is especially going into the summer months, right? Everybody's kids are off for summer. So, I mean, that's what I love about these, is they give me so many different ideas having these discussions. So
sure.
Yeah, let's give it. We actually delay payment too on our referral bonus. So I'm thinking too, Ryan.
I'm like, wait a minute. Huh?
Good advice. Good advice. Well, let's, step back a little bit with this next question. So how can we better sell the opportunity of trade jobs to applicants? Like, what has worked? So how can we, attract more people to this industry and really, make it clear what the benefits and opportunity is here. And Lori, we were having a discussion about this when we last talked. So I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Sure, absolutely. So there's a few things that we do, and one starts with, an apprentice program. So you have, a manager that's assigned to the new employee, and then just teaching them the ropes, showing them the career path. So boasting that no experience type apprentice program. We're also creating some training centers within our own brands where, again, it's opened up to entry level or folks that have no experience, and you're learning on the job. And that definitely seems to have been successful for us. Another thing we do in this area is we have a list of colleges, but more so trade schools, community colleges all over the country. And we share them with the franchise offices in their respective area to have them reach out and establish those relationships with those local schools. One of our franchise offices actually, he established a relationship. He came in and did a demo for the school to generate that interest. And we're going back to also to the high school level which is so important, your local high schools coming in for career day, or, just having a designated time to have students come in and learn about the trades. So there's a big push there, not only, of course, with our company, but all over the place. Because I think, we've known for years that the trades are dying, right? Like it seems as though the push is college, college, college. So how can we bring this awareness back to the table with the skilled trades? And those items that I mentioned seem to be working pretty well for us to just bring light to, you have a career path in the trades. You can grow, you can stay here. And, then we look at it, of course, from, especially with girls, we want to get more women into the trades. One of the things too that Authority Brands does, like through our LinkedIn pages, we have a page created for our trade positions for women in the trades as well. Again, it's just trying to bring that awareness and drive interest to our brands.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Ryan?
Yeah, so I think, so I'm probably going to be less prescriptive than Lori was. She had some really great ideas, like things you can go do. But I really want you to think about how you can become attractive. Like, how can your brand become attractive? And Lori, you touched on that. But how do you become attractive to those you want to attract? And that's what it really comes down to. So if you want to attract the younger generation, you got to be on social media or Snapchat or whatever the thing is today. Like, you have to be there if you want to do that. But more so than that, you have to attract the parents. See, the reason that we have such the skills gap that we have in the trades today is because the parents said, no kid of mine is going to go be a plumber. I can't tell my friends that my kid became a plumber when there's all these opportunities in tech or going to college or getting these other degrees. And that almost became shameful for parents to talk about their kids going into the trades. It used to be cool. Like, everybody's seen that picture from the 30s of the guys eating lunch on the steel beam, building a skyscraper. And people were like, that's cool, I want to do that. They don't think it's cool anymore. And so you've got to make sure that your brand, what you're putting out there, is attractive to these people and to their parents. Because even if you do go to high school and the kids get excited and they come home and they go, Mom, Dad, look what I got. And they're like, you're not going to be an iron worker. It's not safe. It's not cool. You're going to go to college and you're going to get a tech job, and that's what you're going to do. And I think that narrative, you're up against that. Like, you have to realize, if you're paying $20 an hour or less for an entry-level job, especially, Amazon's your biggest competitor. So, because they're paying the same, and you don't have to be outside, and you don't have to learn all these skills, and you don't have to be, treated the way that historically the trades have been perceived as treating people. So I think that is the big opportunity, and it's going to take the whole industry to do it. But even one at a time, we see a lot of our clients, they'll change their brand and they'll do some things. They'll get out in the community. People are like, where has this company been? And then they'll start drawing people in.
We have one of our trade brands, our plumbing group. And, this is similar to what Ryan was saying. One of the workers in the office, I guess he's on TikTok and started doing his TikToks at the job. This is what I do every day. And I mean, it's just phenomenal. And they ended up hiring in around 20 to 25 new workers off of his TikToks. And it's kind of cool. It shows them like outside with a pipe, and this is what I'm doing. So yeah, I think there's just so many moving parts too, right? Like, you got to meet the generation at where they're at right now, right? With the social media, and then build up your company and your brand. Like, wow, this looks totally cool to do this. I would love to do this. And then, of course, the parent buy-in. And, interestingly enough, Ryan, you brought up Amazon. I have a senior in high school, and yesterday she came home with a sheet all about Amazon and a business card. So I'm like, and talk about timing with this call. And I'm like, oh, so is Amazon in your school today? Where'd you get this info? It actually caught my eye as a parent. And they're in that level. And it was just a piece of paper about the benefits of working at Amazon, the career growth, some of the things they can do for tuition reimbursement. And I actually kept it, because that's how it just interests me. So anyway, I just wanted to add those. That's it.
Kristen, what are you seeing?
Well, so I had a dad who, we grew up with him being in the trades. And so the great thing about that for me is that I acquired a lot of that. And then I went and spent 15 years working in Home Depot. So I have a real affinity to the trades. I love all of those things. And the flip side is my husband is not. He's a scientist. He doesn't, handyman work is not for him at all. But interestingly enough, this past couple of months, my dad has been in town working with my son, and we were refurbishing some of the Molly Maid cars because it's time to sell them and move on to newer models. And my son said, "Wow, Mom, you know what? I really enjoyed working on cars." And I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want to exchange one of my electives in high school next year so I can take autos." And I thought, wow, okay, well, that's cool. And then I talked to a girlfriend of mine who's a career counselor at one of the high schools. And she said, "I've been pushing these kids to let them know that some of these tradespeople come out of trade school and they're making six figures. Well, the other person who went to college for 4 years, they may be making close to the same amount of money, but they're strapped with debt." And so it was really interesting because my dad has been trying to push welding and trades work on my boys for quite some time since they were little, right? And so to see my son just kind of evolve and blossom into this interest for cars all of a sudden was really cool. And so I think that, you guys are both, Ryan and Lori, are very right in that getting the parents to get rid of the stigma that the trades are like this dirty, not well respected place to be. I mean, my dad did very well for himself and he retired early, and he was a teenage dad. So the trades were the things that worked for him. And we did very well for ourselves. So it's not like going into the trades is something that should be looked down upon. Now, how as a nation do we change that? Well, that's way beyond me. But, I think that we certainly need to continue to push, in some cases it's the unions to do commercials and talk about, their specific trade so that it becomes more socially acceptable.
Yeah, this is great insight. I think that's an angle I hadn't thought about before with like the parents and the narrative there. And I certainly don't have an answer for
well, here's
nationwide. Yeah. Go ahead,
another
Ryan.
quick tip. Stop using the bad taglines like the smell good plumber, implying that plumbers smell, or don't be a Melvin, implying that guys in the trades are all, they don't know what they're doing. Like, stop with those taglines. I get that it sounds cool and it's clever in the moment, but you hurt the industry when you do that.
Right.
Like, it might make you stand out for a moment, but we have a lot of people down here where I'm at and in Phoenix, and they all have these catchy taglines. I remember them all, but they're all demeaning to the trade.
That's right.
So if you
So
got
Ryan,
one of those,
we
stop
will not
it.
tell you that we see your plumbers crack. We will not say that.
Yeah, stop it. All right, I'm done. I keep ranting on that one, but I'm done.
I think this is a good point. I mean, changing the narrative, right? And what I'm hearing from y'all is what we can control is in our own communities and like in our own sphere. And it just kind of takes everyone coming together, right, in the industry to do it. Because I think I've learned a lot since, starting to work with home services businesses about this opportunity. Like, I didn't know you could make six figures, right away. And like, there's a lot of good growth and, very good opportunity and career there for people. Awesome. Well, let me go to our last prepared question, and then I'll kind of open it up here and talk about retention. So number one recruiting strategy, right, is usually retention. So we're hiring for growth rather than for turnover all the time. So big topic, but let's start with you, Kristen. What do you think keeps your current team around? And you mentioned you have pretty good retention. You didn't lose a lot of people during the pandemic.
I think one of the earliest things I learned when I managed people was always making sure that you do what you say you're going to do. And I'm very cognizant that not all of the people that work for me, as a matter of fact, none of the people that work for me are like me. They are like themselves. I have 100% Hispanic workforce. They have their own holidays that they like to celebrate, right? So we do something special for the Mexican Mother's Day, right? We don't just do ours. So we tend to celebrate their holidays as well as the American holidays. And we often do potlucks where they bring in their foods to share with one another. So we really try to acknowledge and celebrate the differences between everyone. Um, Anytime my dad comes to town from California, he's there early in the morning cooking them all breakfast. And we try to really keep a family atmosphere. One of the things that I didn't realize was that when you deal with some of the level of employees in terms of income level, they don't often get to go out and have a nice meal. They don't often get their hair and nails done and all, new outfit and go out on the town. And so it was very strange to me in kind of like an aha moment. A few years ago, we had a holiday party and we finally decided we were going to go to a restaurant, a nice restaurant. And everybody walked in and I was like, wait a minute, who is that? Like, I didn't recognize my girls because they weren't in their ponytails. They weren't in their Molly Maid shirts. These girls had gone and they got their nails done. They got their hair done. They got a new outfit. They were dressed to the nines to come and have dinner. And I thought, wow, we'll come to find out they don't ever really get to go do things like that. Right. And so those are the things that I try to do to give them something that they might not normally do. Now, the change we made is after doing that the first year, they said, you know what we'd really like to do? That was great. We appreciate it and all, but what about if we go to a Mexican restaurant with a mariachi band next time? I'm like, sure. So now we tend to have our holiday parties on a Saturday when the mariachi bands are playing at a Mexican restaurant where they get their favorite foods. And it's been a blast. And the girls really recognize that. This year with COVID, we were unable, because of some issues that we had, we were unable to go out to eat because the county still had a lockdown. So the girls said, well, let's just have a party at the office. And I thought, okay. So they brought in their karaoke machine. They brought in their music, they were dancing, they were singing. It was hysterical. And we just had a blast. And so I think creating that family environment and an inclusive environment is really important. We have a no drama, no chismosas rule at the office. We don't talk about each other, which is amazing, right? It happens, right? You have 28 girls all working in the same location. How do you not have that happen? But we try to nip that right away if things like that happen. And again, I just think it's a matter of making sure as business owners, we don't always represent who our employees are. So get to know who they are. One of the first challenges I had as a new manager, my manager had said, you need to go out and find out 3 things about every one of your employees. Write it down on an index card so that the next time you go up to, say, Joe, hey, Joe, how's your daughter? Oh, great. And is your son still playing baseball? And 3 things that really tie you to that employee. Not only does it help you remember their names, but it shows that you know something outside of just work about them. You really engage them. And I think employee engagement is huge.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing at the core of that is you've created an environment where people feel seen and like they belong, right?
Yeah.
That very, very human need that we all have. That's
We
wonderful.
try.
Mhm. Mhm. Lori, what are you seeing with Authority Brands?
So a lot of what Kristen was saying is so true. And I did a series of recruiting and retention webinars for all of our franchise offices. And some of the things I talked about in the retention webinars is when you bring a candidate in from day one, you should start retaining them.
Mhm.
You want to show them the career path. I mean, you've heard me mention that a few times on this call. Career pathing is so important that you're investing in them. You want to see them succeed. And again, I feel like it starts from day one. Some of the things I've seen with some of our franchise offices is owners taking the entire crew on industry related job fair, or not job fairs, but expos, in the industry. And that makes them feel important. Like, wow, my owner's investing in me and flying me to this, 3-day learning event on my area. I mean, that just speaks volumes. And one of the things Kristen hit upon it big time, is getting to know your employees, just a few things, treating them like they're human. And one of the things I've always ended my webinars with is, would you want to work for you? And when you think about that, what kind of manager or owner are you? And would you want to work for yourself? So it's creating that environment of trust and warmth and the opportunity to grow. I mean, there's just so many things that I think doesn't have to cost a lot of money, where you can truly retain your employees.
Yeah, I like the look in the mirror test, right? So I love
Yes.
that. Ryan?
Yeah, I want to build on something Lori said. I actually believe that retention starts the day they apply. Because if you can't follow through on commitments during the application process, sure, they still might take a job. That's always in the back of their mind. Like, where else are they going to let me down? Where else are they not going to keep their promises? Where else are they not going to commit? So I actually think it starts at the second they apply. And you think about that application as, your interest in going on a date with somebody. I mean, that sets the whole stage for the relationship. It's the same thing here with employee-employer relationship. So that's just one thing that I just want to say. We have a little bit stricter standard on that. And I would encourage all of you to think about that as well. The other thing that we like to say, and both of you touched on this already, so there's not going to be anything new here, but Gallup, if you haven't heard of them, they're a big consulting firm. They do a lot in the employee and retention hiring space. They have a 12-question engagement survey. And they have figured out that there is one question on that survey that if people say yes to, they're almost 80% more likely to be engaged than if they say no. So of all the 12 questions, there's only one that really matters. And it speaks a lot to that family and belonging, like you were talking about. Because remember, people give up time with their friends, their family, and the things they do for fun to come work for you. So if you can't mimic some of that there in your workplace, it's really going to be hard for people to stick around, especially if you're on call, working crazy shifts, crazy hours, short-staffed, which so many people are. So a lot of people putting in overtime. It's not going to be long before the family and the friends say, hey, we miss you. You need to find something else. And that question is, do you have a best friend at work? Mm-hmm. Gallup has learned that if you say yes to I have a best friend at work, you're 80% more likely to be engaged than if you say no. It's huge. So Kristen, the parties and all that create opportunities for people to bond outside of work and enjoy each other and get to know each other, icebreaker questions, those kinds of things. Give them that sense of belonging, like you said, Natalie.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Ryan. We actually use the Gallup at Career Plug. So when I survey my employees too, and people are always like, why is this best friend question on there? And I'm like, it's important.
Now you know.
Yeah.
I love that. I never heard of that. And that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It was so hard for me to leave my corporate job because I had so many best friends there. And I still look for people when I go into a store. I'm like, oh, I wonder if so-and-so's still here, because you just have these deep relationships you build with people. And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. We're social creatures. So creating that opportunity in our workplace can go a long way. Well, we have about 10 minutes left here, team. So I'm going to kind of open it up. So I had some questions that people wrote in ahead of time. I'm going to ask a couple of those, but if anyone on the call right now has questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A. I'll see how many we can get through in this time. But let me lead with a question we get a lot, and someone wrote it into that we've talked about a little bit, all these different recruiting strategies, but applicant flow is a thing for people, right? A lot of people are short-staffed trying to find applicants. If y'all had, one thing that you would tell people to do to help increase applicant flow, what would you tell them?
I got one.
Go ahead.
Call your Indeed rep and make sure there are no flags on your account. Because Indeed does not tell you if your account gets flagged. And there's no way to know other than calling your rep. And if you don't have a rep, call the 800 number. Because I don't think we've had a client this year that had a clean Indeed account. And it's not because they did anything blatantly wrong. They just didn't know.
Mhm. Yeah,
Well,
Indeed visibility. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Go
If
ahead.
I have Career Plug, do you watch that for me?
We do quality checks on Indeed to make sure jobs are showing up, and we do
Mhm.
reach out if there's things. So we do have checks on our end to make sure Indeed accounts are clean. But yeah, Indeed, it doesn't hurt to make sure your jobs are visible and stuff on your own too. We're checking it, but Indeed in particular has they have quality teams, right? They're really want to make sure they don't have scam jobs. They're really
Right.
concerned with job seeker experience, which I don't blame them, right? We want job seekers to have good experiences. But more than any other job board, you could be impacted for, a phrase you put in your job description that you didn't know, or, tagging something incorrectly could hurt. So when it comes to that major job board visibility, making sure you're following those Indeed guidelines and your jobs are visible is a big one. Mhm. Lori, what would you say? Number one tip for more applicants?
I would say implement social media recruiting into your day-to-day.
Yeah, meet people where they are, right? Kristen?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Well, actually, I was going to say visibility, right? Which is exactly what Lori's saying. Find out where their channels are. I was surprised with some of our podcasts that we do to find that we actually had an audience on, of all things, the platform that my 14-year-old uses, which is Twitch. Like Twitch was a gaming platform. Well, guess what? Now they're using it for different things. And Reddit, which I always thought was just like this huge complaint blog, well, they're looking there too. So it's in social media channels continue to grow, and it is very difficult to keep up with it. But certainly engage social media in what you do. And I will say, hats off. Thank you for doing this webinar. I will say that it is an investment in the top package with Career Plug, because it has so many great tools. So if some of you, I know one of the chats came across that said you had the basic package, take a look at the enhanced or the top package, because there are a lot of different tools in there, and you can really dig into your hiring and recruiting. And I think you would find it to be valuable.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Same with our brands. We have the enhanced version, and there's a lot of features, and we get pretty good we get some decent applicant flow. I mean, of course, it's location driven, right? I mean,
Right.
you do well one area, not the other, but yeah, overall, absolutely.
Excellent. So I had one question that someone wrote in a little bit ago, but I'll see if anyone has an answer for this. So any thoughts or experiences in hiring, disabled people or neurodivergent candidates? And I can answer too, if y'all don't.
That's not something we usually come across, so I don't have anything.
So I'll give my answer on this, because accessibility is something I think a lot about in the hiring process. Is, one, candidates have a myriad of backgrounds and experiences, and you're not necessarily always going to know if someone, is disabled or neurodivergent or has any other lived experience or identity. But a good practice, you can have this on your job postings or kind of make it clear earlier in your hiring process, like, hey, if you need accommodations for any reason, like let's say they need a different interview format or an assessment you would normally have someone take on a time limit that they that doesn't need to be on time limit. You could give them extra time for something, but you can ask for accommodations in the process. Some bigger companies have this, in place where they can just submit that up front. From a very HR perspective, I would just say, just be really clear on what are the core functions of the job. Like, what do you need someone to do? Because that's what you can hold people to and evaluate for, and just be open to people from a lot of different lived experiences and identities there.
Very well put.
Thank you. All right. Another question that we had written in ahead of time was related to this retention conversation. So we've talked a lot about, belonging and the culture piece of it, but specifically around benefits, besides compensation and income, what is really appealing to this workforce right now? Do you have any benefits or things you promote on job postings that you're seeing really land with candidates?
I mean, we do offer PTO, and we have a 401k. We've tried to do benefits in the past, which I was surprised because initially everybody said, "Oh, we want benefits, we want benefits." And so we went out and we found not great benefits, but they were benefits. And a few people started, and then they're like, we don't really like them. So everybody canceled. And now everybody wants 401k, and we're getting more people to do the 401k contributions, which, I mean, the nice thing is, even if they were to leave, they can take that with them. But we haven't really found, aside from PTO and, gift cards and things of that nature and actually that doesn't even qualify for benefits so PTO is really about the only thing that we've given. And these, we do the Google bonuses. If you have Google bonuses and referrals, that's all we have.
Excellent. Lori or Ryan, any thoughts on landing?
I would say stop taking your training for granted. People want to be invested in. They want to know that they're developing their skills. They want to know that they're, Lori, as you mentioned a couple of times, career path, right? They want to know those things. And whether you believe it or not, you train people, even if it's training them in your process, training them in your systems, training them in your software, you're training people. So don't take those things for granted. Make sure they're in the ads, make sure people know hey, we're going to invest in you. And once you get through this training, which is critical to do your job, there's other training opportunities available if you want to move into supervisor roles or whatever. Don't take those things for granted, because it's really what a lot of job seekers are looking for, especially in the lower level positions or those hourly positions.
Yeah, we boast that a lot, what Ryan just said with the training, in addition to, we do have a low cost benefit provider. And of course, PTO is a big one. And then some of our franchise offices will give a certain amount of money towards tools, if needed for them to do the job, and it's theirs to keep then.
Excellent. All right, so I probably have time for one more question here. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get to everyone's. Let's see. Laura asked, any tips to get employees involved in more after hours team building events, right? We talked about how important that can be to retention. They said, we've tried many different things, right? We've tried picnics, cookouts, but having trouble getting that actual engagement and participation. Anyone have some strategies that have worked there?
I would say one of the key things is to make sure that you're having these events regularly. It needs to become something that is consistent. People know what to expect. And the first few times you do it, you have to expect that not a lot of people are going to show up, because they're like, well, this is different. I don't know if I like different yet. And find ways to engage them and to create some of that connection and those friendships outside of just those big events. So maybe bring in coffee and donuts, once a week or something for 15, 20 minutes, and allow people to get to connect and bond. That way, when there is an event like that, they'll be like, well, my friends are going, so I'm going to go too. So you have to create those opportunities and just be more regular with them so they become more habit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Something we do at Career Plug is try to, work things into the workday, right? During working hours. Obviously, we have to get work done too, but trying to create those social opportunities at work. So when we do have a happy hour or something after, more people show up. So it's been working for us as well. Mhm. Excellent. All right, we are almost at time here. I just have a minute left, so I wanna close it out. Thank you so much, Lori, Ryan, Kristen. Like, I feel like I really learned a lot from this discussion. I'm so happy you were able to join us today. I know I didn't get to everyone's questions, especially if you had very specific, career plug, how to use your account questions. Like, please reach out to our team. We're happy to look at your account and make sure you're set up for success there, get you trained on any of the tools. Like I said, I'm going to send out this recording. I'll send out some other resources of things that we've talked about here today. But panelists, any closing thoughts before I say goodbye?
I would just say thank you to everybody. I'm sorry, Ryan. Thank you for attending. And, as always, not one person has all the answers. And so I think the more that you reach out to other people, not just within necessarily your same brand or whatnot, obviously within the industry or industries that are similar, the more you talk about it and share ideas, I think the better off we all are. So don't look to one single source for your answers, because you may not find them there.
Good point.
And I was just going to say thank you as well. And also, this is a time to be different and stand out. So don't do what everybody else is doing. Find ways to be creative and stand out, and you'll get noticed.
Yep. And I just want to say thank you all to everybody as well. Absolutely agree with Kristen and Ryan said, and, build your brands, build the environment that will attract people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you again to our wonderful team of panelists. I'll see y'all later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.